Hello. This channel's mainly about the joy in C.S. Lewis, but as it's Tuesday in Holy Week as this goes live, I thought I'd take a brief glance at the shadow side of it all. In his autobiography, Surprised by Joy, Lewis says, "With my mother's death, all settled happiness, all that was tranquil and reliable disappeared from my life. There was to be much fun, many pleasures, many stabs of joy, but no more of the old security. It was sea and islands now. The great continent had sunk like Atlantis." Lewis's mother died when he was 10, and he tells of the terrible night in the big old house high over Belfast Lough, where he was crying in distress from toothache and headache, and she didn't come. And that was just the start. The days which followed seemed quite alien and sinister to him. And when finally she died from the cancer, he speaks less of grief than the terror and horror, the disintegration forever of all the old settled feeling. "There has never really been any sense of security and snugness since," he wrote, when he was 55. And you know, the chronicles of Narnia are haunted by dead and dying mothers. I have a list. Caspian's mother had been good and kind, according to Dr. Cornelius, his tutor. His father had already been murdered by the usurper Miraz, and for all we know, Miraz had killed her too. Caspian grew up an orphan. His aunt, Queen Prunaprismia, was a wretched replacement for a mother. When Caspian's son, Rilian, was very young, he went riding with his mother in the northern marches of Narnia, and as the queen slept on the grass beside a fountain, a great green serpent slid out of the woods and poisoned her in the hand. And 10 minutes later she was dead. She was Ramandu's daughter, of course, Caspian's bride from the world's end, with the blood of stars in her veins. Prince Rilian, we hear, took his mother's death very hardly. In The Horse and His Boy, Shasta was separated soon after birth from his mother and father, the Queen and King of Archenland, kidnapped and set adrift on the ocean in a small boat and washed ashore in Calaman, where he was brought up very harshly by a fisherman, motherless and unloved. When he's eventually returned to King Lune, his father is keen to have Aravis, the girl who's become Shasta's travelling companion, to live with them in his castle, on account that there'd been no woman in the court since Shasta's mother had died. And then there's Aravis herself, who tells us, "My mother, on whom be the peace of the gods, is dead." In the last battle, Lucy weeps for the end of Narnia, and Peter begins to reprove her, but King Tyrion says, "The ladies do well to weep. See, I do so myself. I have seen my mother's death." Above all, the magician's nephew from the second page is shadowed by the illness unto death of Diggory's mother. And when Polly looks up and sees his face peering over the garden wall, it's stained with tears because he's been dislocated from all that's dear and familiar to him and brought to London so that his sick mother can be looked after by Aunt Letty and Uncle Andrew. The loneliness of it. Diggory has his lunch with Aunt Letty while his mother has hers in the bedroom. People call with grapes for her. Diggory hears their conversations through open doors, whispered prognoses and sympathies. Poor dear little Mabel, and it would need fruit from the land of youth to help her now, and nothing in this world will do much. And above all, she must be protected from disturbances, especially the maniacal Jadis, Queen of Charn, who's rampaging around the place. We follow Diggory's feelings. He conceives of a hope beyond hope. He tries to crush it because there have been so many false hopes already, and he knows he wants it so badly. But the hope won't be crushed. He'll hunt through all worlds till he finds the thing which will heal his mother. And 50 pages later, he despairs of this overwhelming longing, and he cries out to Aslan in real distress to help her. And how does Aslan respond? Well, when Diggory dares to look up, he sees tears in the lion's eyes. For a moment, he has a glimpse into Aslan's own great sorrow. "Grief is great," Aslan says to him, the tears brimming in his eyes. and Diggory for a moment felt as if the lion must really be sorrier about his mother than he was himself. My son, says Aslan. And again, later, dear son, as if he's placing Diggory in the relationship of child to parent in the absence of his human mother and father. I know, Christ says, because he knows the depth of sorrow in all our lives. The memory of Aslan's tears sustains Diggory later on when he's tempted by the witch to steal the fruit which will make his mother well. What about this mother of yours whom you pretend to love so, the witch says. And Diggory knows it's a terrible choice he has to make. But he turns down the opportunity to take his mother the apple of life, the thing he's been longing for most in the whole world, and he takes it back to Aslan as the lion had commanded. The temptation was very severe, but he's regained the integrity that he lacked when he woke the witch from her slumber earlier in the book. At the end, he loses all hope of saving his mother, and he weeps before Aslan. But this time, the lion gives him a fruit that will bring her healing, and not only healing, but great joy. The first thing that Diggory does when he gets home is to go to his mother's bedside where she lies with a thin, pale face that would make you cry to look at it. And he gives her the apple, which is fragrant with life and youth and Holy Spirit and heaven. As for us, we walk in the valley of the shadow of death, don't we? And Christ says, I know, grief is great. He is acquainted with all grief. Remember, he wept at Lazarus' grave as Aslan wept over Caspian dead in the stream at the end of the silver chair. His tears sustain us. Tell me your sorrows, he said one time to Shasta in The Horse and His Boy. Tell me your sorrows. All day long, Aslan, the great lion that everyone's pinning their hopes on, has seemed so preoccupied that they all become very dispirited. Everyone's fears begin to loom large again. When he speaks, his voice is dull. And Lucy glimpses the depths of sadness in his face as he contemplates what has to be done to save Edmund. And she follows him with Susan as he paces, oh, so slowly out of the camp into the night, head bent low as if very, very tired, towards the hill of the stone table, that is, towards his death. And each step of the route is charted by Lewis in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, like a Via Dolorosa, and Aslan stumbles and moans at one point, as they say Christ stumbled on the route through Jerusalem. He asks for the touch of the girl's hands on his mane to comfort him as they walk. It's the Gethsemane grief. And then, farewell, he says. And later the two girls weep by his body, like the women at the cross kissing his dead face. A tragic Pieta, lonely beyond belief, hopeless in the long cold hours of the night. Weeping may endure for a night, and it may be a long night. But then, death is reversed.